working with next?
Just me doing it.
Yeah, it's actually beautiful.
Hello, I am Meg. I am the current National Events Manager for ESN UK and the Future Social Impact Coordinator for ESN UK, which is a bit like a cause officer, just minus education and employability. We're actually in Aberystwyth, Wales, which is my home university. I was communications manager here before I was on the national board, so it's really nice to do that. I'm sure we can do this time.
Yeah, so last but not least, hopefully, is I'm a guiding graduate administration. I started here as well in ESN Aberystwyth as a local section president. Then last year I have been the partnership manager for ESN UK, and then my mandate I'm going into will be as vice president for ESN UK, alongside the lovely Iona as president, who is right next to me in that picture. And we're really excited about the potential of what we can do as an MD, despite all of the challenges and different things going on. I think just the potential of what we can do as a team is something that we're really bonding over and something that we're really looking forward to. So if we can share that motivation despite these times, then we'll be very, very happy indeed.
Just quickly, I am just on the far right, so next to Stephen. She's the president, she'll be joining us shortly for the question round. And then there's Wojtek on the left, who is one of the most interesting people I've ever met in my life. He's a nice sort of Philip. He was our health and wellbeing officer for ESN UK last year, and this year he's the incoming network employability and validation officer. So we have someone who's more focused on this course separately. If you want to ask more about that, feel free later. Okay, cool. So, events-wise, this is how we're structured. Essentially, we start the mandates in our year trying to have some sort of national board meeting. So again, this is an informal one, but hopefully we'll have a proper national board meeting with everybody now that we've all been elected into our roles. Then we will have regional training events, so you can see that in the second bullet point. We try and go region by region in the UK and just do some basic skills and training for the sections to understand ESN better. The main thing for us is to make them feel what ESN is, because this is something that's very difficult to teach. And therefore, when we show it as an MD, we show them why we're in this network, beyond just helping Erasmus students and organising events and parties, etc. They then have an early feeling of what it is to be ESN and what it is to represent this organisation and be part of such a massive, amazing network. Then from the regional training, we have our National Assembly. Our first one is in October. This also is in around the original platform time, so we're part of the Western European platform. Then, of course, we have our next National Assembly, which is normally around January, February time. This one is more so preparing for the next GA as well, so topics, transition, etc. And then we have our third National Assembly, in around May, June time, which is our electoral kind of National Assembly, and also something focused more on handover reports. So yeah, this is how we're structured. We don't have too many events in our calendar. We do have a CLR as well, and we do have different communities, but there aren't so many physical events that we do. Our history as well, we hosted the CNR Glasgow in summer 2019. For us, this was a big landmark. We hadn't hosted the CNR in maybe 15 years, so for us to be like, we're going to find a way, we're going to make this happen, it was a massive achievement for us, and it really empowered everyone to do a lot. And then we had, now we're crazy enough to try and organise work in a pandemic, which is another great story. If you want to ask, feel free to ask later. But we tried to do that. I think, should I talk about it, or do you want to go for it?
Yeah, sure. So we do also tend to do a national trip to Edinburgh in the autumn semester. The spring semester event is a little more flexible, but it's quite popular to put on the event in Edinburgh in the autumn.
Okay, so this is greetings from our ESN UK second National Assembly of the year. You see a lot of diversity, a lot of beautiful faces, a lot of passion for ESN clearly. I'm not sure if I was there, so I'm quite disappointed in myself. But look, let's not think about that too much, and let's move on. So, yeah, this year our biggest focus is probably on mobility. You can imagine that with Brexit, things have been a bit more complicated for us, and with the fact that we're no longer going to be part of the next Erasmus program from 2021 to 2027, things are more complicated. Now going forward, we have new schemes for the UK. We have, I guess, the tuition scheme, which you maybe heard about, which we need to start advocating more and more for, and we're trying to disseminate. We're also still, in theory, accessible through Erasmus Plus. There are still funding rounds, there's still funding that's been distributed that hasn't been used. So until all the old funding from the old program is gone, there are still opportunities for people to come to the UK on Erasmus Plus and vice versa. This is still in existence, but in the future, when this funding is finished, then people can no longer go from place to place using Erasmus Plus. If this makes sense, then great. This is something I want to clarify. We're also going to have a Welsh scheme that is being developed as well, and who knows, maybe a Scottish one too. So we're doing a great job making things complicated, but it's great for ESN, more opportunities to advocate and to work with different stakeholders, more mobility programs to have an influence in. So therefore, this is something that's really important for us, and we don't want to lose our ability to bring students into the country and vice versa. So this is a real key focus this year. And one of the big reasons I decided to come back to ESN UK and focus on education is education and mobility are very important. So yeah, this gives you a bit of an idea of one of our focus areas. That's a picture of the Edinburgh trip, which we kind of talked about. But our Edinburgh trip, it's 420 people that we've got to come from different parts of the UK. I'm very interested to hear about your trips as well, because this is one of ESN Turkey's strengths from what I remember. So I'd love to hear more about how you guys do things, how it works, how you get sections involved, how you get students to come to different trips. Cool. Upcoming projects. Yeah, so we want to collaborate a lot more actively with our buddy countries. We had maybe okay collaboration in the past. In COVID, of course, it's much harder to focus on collaborating with different countries, and there's only so much you can do. But we want to start building our collaboration. We have a historical partnership with Belgium. We have one with Ireland, which is, I think, maybe logical. But we also maybe want to develop one with Switzerland, for example, who are in a similar position to us in terms of Erasmus Plus. In terms of sections, we're similar to you in terms of our network size. So our local level, we have 22 sections of it. And we have a lot of turnover, so we end up having a lot of new sections, and then sections die as well. And we find it hard to maintain that stability sometimes. So for us, what we're going to try and do this year is have a more focused approach, where different national board members, they will work in sections on an individual basis. So maybe we have between us 1, 2, 3 sections that we really focus on and help to grow, to support the vice president, because especially this year, maybe there's a lot of knowledge that might be lost, there may be less volunteers interested in ESN, so it's important to empower the volunteers that are currently there and to teach them the things that are going to be missing. So we need to have a more hands-on approach in our opinion. Hence we're going to have this buddy system with NB and NBS members. In terms of, yeah, so I guess another thing is supporting them through COVID as well. This is also important. I've talked about the mobility strategy already, so that's okay. Something we want to introduce as well. We want to introduce back our national trips. We want to have that Edinburgh trip. Maybe we need to have a Turkey trip. I don't know. In seriousness, we're looking at Amsterdam. We're looking at Ireland as options. Maybe then we'll be something else as well. That's possible for us to go by a coach. This is something to look at into the future. And yeah, in terms of community weekends, so this is an idea where sections and NBS get together at the beginning of the year and in between semesters. So we're to really bond and get to know each other on a personal level, rather than for it to be too formal, where you have plenaries, you have workshops and stuff. It's more chill, it's more relaxed as a concept, but still a little bit of learning. Because in ESN, the most important thing is to understand that we're all the same. Maybe we have different roles, maybe we have different positions, it doesn't matter, we all have similar values. And this is something we need to bond over and share. When you bond and you work together as a team, and you feel the spirit, this energy, working for each other is nothing, it's easy. Because it's not work, it's fun, it's being with people that you love, doing something that you love, which is fine, right? This is not something that I consider to be too difficult. So yeah, this is going to be the power of something like a community weekend that we want to integrate hopefully in the next year. In terms of mobility, so like we said, things are a bit complicated right now. We have the UK, which is a touring scheme, which enables students to go abroad from the UK to different parts of the world. We have the new Welsh scheme coming out, which I believe will do similar things. Maybe it will be bilateral. Maybe you want to back those.
Yeah, So the thing with the tutoring scheme is it's not reciprocal. So we send out students but don't receive. Unfortunately, that's the significant change from the Erasmus program. But the continuation of the Welsh Government is looking at will be reciprocal. So they will receive students and send them out, basically mirroring the Erasmus scheme as closely as possible. Similar in a vein, I guess, to Switzerland.
Like I said before, we're still part of the Erasmus Plus program in theory. There is still funding, and whilst there is still funding, there are still opportunities for students to go to Europe or outside of Europe even, and for students from outside Europe to come to us. The reason it's a global map is because Erasmus Plus, which is contrary to popular belief, but it is also a global program. It is something where you can go beyond kind of program countries. There are opportunities for Erasmus Plus funding to go further than that. So we're still part of mobility programs across the world is the point. And we're looking to see how things will change and how we can shape the future of mobility. This is the funnest part, guys. We're lucky. We're here now. So, let's do this. We're going to go through a slang session. Now, slang means like words that are used commonly in that country. We're going to start with English, but I think I should have corrected that to London. And it's my slang, it's the way I speak sometimes. So sometimes when I speak, I might use these words and I don't realise. So I'm trying to give you some information, that way you can be like, okay, this is what he means. Cool. So, the first one is in it. In it means isn't it. It means that you're trying to agree with something. And yeah, so this is the first word. Then there's bruv. It's the same as bro, but it's very, very London. And it's very, very like relaxed to say. You go bruv. Cool. Then this is a very common word that's useful across the UK. Bant/banter. Banter is a specific type of humour between people, and it has like this inside kind of joke thing. It's like us having a common joke that we share, and it's called our banter, if this makes sense. Smashed and hammered. Hammered basically means to get very, very, very drunk. Prick is not a lovely person, it's someone who you maybe don't like. Hem or buff means attractive, nice, or very good looking. Bollocks means not very good, not very good. It's a mild way of saying of expressing anger or not being too happy. Gutted is being very, very sad, like on a very, very low, in a very, very low moment. I'm gutted. Bare means lots, or it can mean very. So like I'm bare happy means I'm very happy. Or there's bare people in this room means there's lots of people in this room. So it can mean different things. And I sometimes just randomly say rah, which is me being like, wow. Whoa, it's a crazy kind of thing. So yeah, that is the Yas slang. We can move on to the next part, the Scottish slang, which I don't know, I hope is here. She here, is she not?
Can you read it in the Scottish accent?
Do you want me to do the Scottish accent?
Yes, please.
Alright, I'm going to pretend to be Iona. I've been working on my Scottish accent, so we're going to have to just run with it. It's a shame I can't see your feedback to see how you guys are finding this, but life. Okay, so we.
It means small.
I.
I is yes.
Ball bag.
An ignorant person.
Egypt.
An idiot.
Boggins, guts.
It's disgusting.
Pube, buzzing.
So, being very excited about.
I'm steaming.
Is responsible parties not your friends who are probably quite drunk.
Patch.
To ignore something or someone.
I can't be hacked.
I can't be bothered and don't want to do it.
Dubbed.
When something is very wrong or broken.
No Scooby.
When you don't have any clue or idea or you don't understand something, you see that it's related to Scooby.
And we'll go on to Stephen.
Yeah, so you get a bit of Welsh here. So some of these are actually like colloquialisms of English, and some of them are actually from the Welsh language, which people assume is a bit like English, but it really is absolutely not. Yes, how much Welsh do you understand?
I have no idea what you're saying sometimes, but it's okay.
But yeah, some of these are great words. Cwtch is pedal. It comes from the word of like a safe space. It's like the place that you store something if you wanted to keep it safe. So cwtch is such a great word because it's like that safe space you share with a friend. Butt is like it's like a greeting. So you say, "Oh, you're right, butt." And if you hear someone, if you ever get to Cardiff or get to Wales and you hear someone saying this, then don't be a friend if they're not like it, but they're just just saying it's a greeting, okay? Tidy, it's way of saying something's good. So you can say, oh, that's tidy that, and at least everyone here will understand what you say. Achrebi is from Welsh. Doesn't really have a direct translation, but it's like if you step in the dog poop, then you're going to say Achrebi. Lush is an English word, but we use it way more than anyone else. So yeah, it's just saying that something's really nice. You say, oh, that's lush. You really enjoy that. Like is what we use as like a glottal stop, as I've just used in that sentence. So we say, oh, that's like a very tough time. Like I really feel for you. Like yeah, we use like when we're nervous, and we all use like far too much because we use it just in sentences. Yakida, that should be an I on now, is our way of saying cheers. It literally means good health as well. So, quite similar to Gesundheit from German. What's occurring is what you say with like, what's up, how you doing? And you can combine that with but, you say what's occurring but, and that's a greeting for a friend. So you can see how it gets a bit confusing. Tup is someone that's not the sharpest knife in the drawer, is another phrase you can use. So yeah, tup or tupsin bach, these are all ways to friendly insult people. Yes, so we also have a habit of confusing English people with their own language. So if we say that it's something's going to take us a little bit of time, we'll say, "I will be there now in a minute." So that really confuses English people because they don't know whether they'll be there now or in a minute. Because we don't really have a concept of time, it'll just happen at some point. And yeah, that's welcome to Welsh land and Welsh language in general.
Yeah, thank you guys. Thank you for our presentation. This was made a while ago by me, hence it says Barcelona, things have changed. MLB stands for Major Love and Blessing, which is something that we should all share. But thank you for listening to our presentation, and we're happy to receive any questions on your side. Thank you guys.
So thank you for your presentation and for lovely. As a translator, I found thank you for that. So you showed us your script. It was, I think, very similar to ours, but also interesting to ask you. But for shortly, shortly, I want to ask we chance to introduce ourselves. So I'm Mitchell. I'm the NR of ESN Turkey. I back with me.
Know me from the top presidential meetings and GAs. So it's here. We all wish that guy.
And we got
Hello guys, my name is Salim and I'm the Vice President of ESN Turkey.
Hello guys, I'm Kader. I'm Communication Manager of ESN Turkey.
we cannot see him, but we also have our WK with us somewhere.
He's web administrator, so he's in the web.
Never mind. Anyway, so firstly, you said you want to know a bit more about our trip events because our partners. I probably didn't have any, but we have big. Firstly, I want to point out to have just like you NA states. We also, like you, were hosting a lot of we hosted some international events in 2019. So that was also a big, not like that. It was a big for our morale too. But our big events are still small. Our national events, it's annual, every semester that we do every semester. A festival where we have DJ performance at night. Time day events we all have madness habits. Sakarya, the Mediterranean. That's a well, it's I think it's similar to it's very similar to that, but 2 nights, 3 days hotel, all inclusive party events. We have our famous local trip where we go. And we have training events. Like I think it was similar to have one-on-one trainings. I think you guys do it very interesting.
How many people do you have on that is the question.
Your network, how many?
Which one?
So you guys have half the amount of hours. So it's also, I guess, have the amount to divide them up by region.
That's why there is to our we organize for 4 different regions. Istanbul, Ankara, İzmir. For that we organize not home far away section that the idea is.
So yeah, that's a bit introduction. Yes, answer. Yes, but then I want to get your question. So my first question about you. So you guys are a non-EU country now. So you joined us. So I want to know how your ESN experience changed. Our arguments and the other non-EU countries ESN have a very different ESN than we. I feel like they're a lot more included, especially natural, but again, sometimes at GAs and other events, it kind of feels like a very EU-centered, exclusive events where we not really contribute. I want to know.
This is a very interesting question. You're talking more in an international context. So I understand you. From the UK, we're not exactly the same as the EU, and we were never exactly the same as the EU, so we've always maybe found it an interesting dynamic to negotiate. We're lucky because we speak collectively, people want to talk to us. And I think it's a dynamic thing where people like to talk to us and let them. Can you hear me okay? Because it's not feedback. Okay. So this is the problem. I think anything changes for us in terms of non or cricket. I think we will get that more calm. And luckily, I've developed a contribution one that I can really make sure is important. The price is not important. But the question on. Sorry.
Your voice kind of breaks out a bit. Are you a bit far away from?
The mic is getting. And shall I talk? Sure, 1 second.
Perfect.
Better? Okay, so from you, when we're at events, I don't think anything changes in how we get treated. But I see there's a clear difference between speaking to or countries that are not EU versus EU. This is something I see as well. I think this comes down to cultural differences, especially with ES and Turkey. So I've seen that there's maybe a cultural misunderstanding for people to think that maybe Turkey is more different than it is to people in Europe, especially because people maybe think, it's probably a Muslim country. They're different, they're on the edge of the EU, they're also part of Asia, so maybe these subconscious things play in people's heads and it feels like they can't approach as much. I think this is something, because I noticed that the Turkish people would always be together, and I'd always look at them and I'd always want to talk to them, but this is also because I'm from a mixed background and I'm complicated, so that's fine. But maybe it's this thing of unapproachability. Not so much that it's like they don't like you don't like them, but they just find it more easy to talk to each other because they have more similarities, no? So this is something that maybe we can talk about and address in terms of cultural understanding and communication, and understanding that we're all one in this network, we're here for the same reasons. It doesn't matter what country you come from. But people can forget this very quickly. So this is my opinion on this. This is how we can include people more. And the second people realize, oh wait, there's Turkish people on all levels, like they're exactly the same as us, they're amazing people. Then of course, people will start to realize we need to do more for them. And this network's changing. We changed the borders of the ESN, right? This network is no longer going to be European. This is a statement to say that by opening the borders. And that's the future. The future won't be a European network. For a long time it has been, but it no longer will be. So with time we need to work to push, to change the dynamic. So that way people see we can't just be EU focused. It can be part of the focus, but it cannot be the focus. And people cannot feel like, I'm not EU, therefore I have to feel like a separate network in a network. Does this make sense? We need to change the culture. That's my opinion. If you guys have an opinion, feel free. I've been in the ESN too long, that's why. I talk too much.
I just
Need to get more interesting as the point is expired.
It's true.
Something we have to wait if you want to. Sorry, I wasn't.
One of the unique things, as we've discussed with the UK, is that we have what's called devolved governments. So you can see that with what we talked about with the Welsh scheme and the English scheme, because education is like a devolved issue. So there's 4 different regions of the UK that all have their own stake and all have differences in how they treat education, which is both a positive because we can work with different people, but also a negative because it's just complicated and a bit of a nightmare. And particularly interesting because, as I said, the German scheme won't be reciprocal, but the Welsh government, for example, and I would expect at some point the Northern Irish and the Scottish to follow, they'll be wanting to receive Erasmus and exchange students, whereas, obviously it's not so much in the regular England and the core of the UK. So that's going to be very interesting for us, for example, to promote, because there are the options for exchange, and we've got to really promote that within Europe and say, the UK is open, you can come here, but also not entirely. So there are some pretty unique policy issues that we run into because of the differences that we have. So I'd say, the education policy and higher education in the UK in general is a bit complicated now that we haven't got that centralisation from something like the overall Erasmus scheme. But it also means that we have the potential to advocate even more and be a real part of it. So that's something that we're kind of quite excited about and hoping for over the next year. And as we increase in that, then hopefully we can really create schemes that benefit students even more.
Next question.
Do you guys have a question to ask? Do you guys have any questions to ask our side? Ask to answer.
I'm going to be honest, I want protection from the questions that help them from a different perspective. Because we can speak to you anytime as an MD. This isn't a problem. I want the section to take the opportunity.
Yes, that was my next
Hi, for your presentation. My question is, you said that things got complicated after the Brexit. What was the difficulties that challenged you most during the transfer?
What was the most challenging thing during the transition process because of Brexit? Oh, that's interesting.
As ESN, I guess, really, it's not as complicated as people think. It doesn't mean we leave ESN, it doesn't mean there's any change. The most difficult thing will be that, if anything, COVID is more impactful, but the most difficult thing will be that getting students to come to the UK now without funding is going to be a problem, both international students, because they now have to pay more fees, especially European students, and also mobility students not having Erasmus Plus funding. I have many friends who come here and they can only come here with Erasmus Plus. I have Turkish friends that are the same, they have no chance of coming here without Erasmus Plus. So this will probably be the biggest problem, that we may have less exchange students, but at the same time, I think the government is banking on the fact, or expecting that because we are the UK, there's still the attraction, even if it's expensive, and it still has the reputation. So I hope that from our side, there will always be students, and a lot of students, but at the same time, I don't like the idea that students have it harder to come, and there's more barriers. This is something that I think we really need to fix and try and change, and show why it's so important for everyone to have an opportunity, not just for the UK students to have an opportunity to go abroad, you know, because this is going to be a change in the funding structure. There's going to be less opportunities for people to come to England. So this will be the biggest problem, and then that will show in ESN, because there will be less ESNs to come and join the network, less mobility students, less motivated people, and so I think our problems are more longer term than short term, and now nothing's changed.
I think if I could say anything, one of the biggest things that we've struggled with is miscommunication, particularly with the government, and then how policy has changed and how organisations have changed, and then communicating that back to sections and to in other international countries. I feel like there was so much confusion for so long about how we would sit post-Brexit and what would happen, that it's still a bit contested, that people don't really know what's going on and don't really know the ins and outs of how it all works. And clearing that up has been quite difficult, because obviously people hear certain things, and yeah, trying to clear that up is a big challenge.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, I guess part of that, like feeding onto that, was the uncertainty as well, because I mean, like 1 month before the government decided to come out of Erasmus, they were saying that we're definitely going to stay part of Erasmus, blah blah blah blah blah. So it's really like the miscommunication can start from the top sometimes, and it makes that job quite difficult. But I think now, at least with the changes, at least for a year, everything should be stable. The cheering scheme is on a 1 year basis, only a 1 year basis, so it's going to be quite interesting how they put that into effect, particularly obviously during a pandemic. You know, so we're in an interesting position of supporting that, but also trying to build upon it, and yeah, obviously, as Gus says, make sure that there are as few barriers as possible.
Thanks so much.
You're welcome.
Did we speak too quickly?
No.
I normally speak too quickly, so let me know.
Anybody else like to ask a question?
Come on. Come on. Do we have any questions from online?
I want to say something. Tell them to speak some scars.
You want me to tell them? That makes them look like they're actors for us. But anyways, do we have any questions from the online?